Mr. Malik, good morning and thank you for joining us. Now, the average price cut has been about 9% across key categories. So, can I say that this is a simple pass-through after the GST rates, after the GST implementation?
Certainly, I think it's the reduction from 28 to 18%. So effectively, it comes to around 9% tax reduction that we have passed on through our pricing immediately to all our distributors, modern trade, etc.
Could you highlight exactly in which category, how much price cut have you undertaken?
See, in the categories of shampoo, skincare, and air freshener, that's where we have an impact of 28 to 18%, and we have transferred that tax benefit to our channel partners, and they will be passing it on to the consumers.
Okay. Now, just to understand the maths right, have your product prices now come below the levels where they were before GST was implemented, or they are pretty much at the same level? The 9% pass through, it's a pure adjustment after the GST rates were slashed.
Well, I think as far as the prior to GST rates are concerned, the effective rate was somewhere between 21 to 22. So therefore, it will be comparatively slightly lower than the pre-GST scenario.
So, could you very quickly help us understand what would be the net impact on your margins, because this pass-through has happened? So, I would imagine that it would largely be neutral. In lieu of that, could you give us a range on margins?
Sure. So, as far as this reduction is concerned, this is for our existing finished goods inventory that we have reduced the pricing to pass on the tax benefit. So, it does not impact our margin at all, because we are only talking in terms of the revenue which is net of GST. So, therefore, while passing it on to the consumers, there is no impact on the margins.
What is your sense of the total unsold inventory which is there in the system? And because GST rate was at 28%, now they've come down to 18%. I'm sure there would be a nightmare try to calculate, how much inventory is not been sold, how much inventory is at the dealer level, how much inventory has, left the company premises. How would you arrive at that conclusion?
Well, it's very simple, because the inventory that's available with us is either, it is in our clearing forwarding agent or it is with our distributors. So therefore, we have the details with regard to the inventory that's available to us on cutoff period of 15th of November. So whatever is the inventory on that, the next invoicing is happening at the new GST rate, which is 18%. So it's absolutely clear in terms of the inventory that we hold that will have to be passed on.
Lalit, you had earlier mentioned that restocking gains were very little because of the conscious efforts to trim the pipeline inventory. That would also aid you in pushing more of your newer, lower, retail price products in the system compared to others. So can we now, after these price cuts, expect you to be able to outperform in volumes going forward?
Well, see, I think we have done two things. Existing inventory, as we said, we have slashed the price. On the new manufacturing, we will have a lower MRP. So effectively, it would mean the consumer will have to pay less than what it was at the time of 28%, which should have a positive impact on the volume. Now, how much that will be, I think it's some matter of time where we'll have to see and watch. But certainly, it's incentive to the consumer with regard to purchases, and therefore it should help us in terms of enhancing the demand.
So then what are you forecasting in terms of volume growth for the second half of this year in lieu of the kind of demand scenario you see panning out?
Sure. So I think as far as we have stated earlier, we maintain our stand between 5 to 10%, and we do expect to be high single digit volume. Certainly the scenario is better than Q2, so we do expect to be high single digit between 5 to 10%. What
has been your experience of price cuts? Do you think the categories which you represent which are largely rural dominated, such kind of a sharpish price cut, will this lead to more demand, or this will lead to more upgrading where consumers will buy the same products but they'll shift their brand preference?
Well, it will be both scenario, but largely it will be that people will be able to buy more of the same brand, but certainly when they will see the price cut happening across these categories, some of them will upgrade, but largely it will be the consumer who was on the border would now enter and would come forward to purchase. So overall sentiments will improve, people will either buy more frequently or they will upgrade to the higher premium products. Either of the scenarios, it's going to help in terms of the overall consumer sentiments.
Very quickly, sir, can you just I mean, you said that your volume growth estimate is between 5 to 10%. Now, that's a fairly big range. It's either 5 or double of 5 at 10%. Could you narrow it down to perhaps a range that is more understandable of the kind of course that your product demand would take through the course of the next 6 months?
Sure, it will be single high digit, closer to 10, but it will be single high digit is what we are expecting.
So, closing comments from you. Do you think other FMCG companies now will have no choice but to announce a similar kind of a cut?
I think it's very clear because it's a tax rate cut which needs to be passed on to consumers. So therefore, I think in spirit of law, I don't think there is any choice. It has to be passed on, and in overall scenario, it's going to be win-win both for consumers as well as for the corporates.
Okay, Mr. Malik, good luck. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for accommodating this interview request. It was
Thank you and have a good day.